Imaging finding a rare coin so rare it could pay off your house today, we're diving into 10 of the most valuable US coins ever found. Real coins worth hundreds and even millions of dollars or more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next rare find. Let's start this.
Imagine this. You're cleaning out a drawer, maybe the same drawer that's been ignored since the Clinton administration, and there it is, a single, ordinary-looking penny staring back at you. Abraham Lincoln. 1995, no mint mark. You almost toss it back. And then a thought hits you so hard it stops your breath. What if this tiny copper coin is worth more than your house? What if it's one of the most talked about Lincoln cent errors in modern American coin history, with whispers in the market pushing values as high as six figures and headlines screaming numbers like $637,000? Sounds crazy, right? Good. Because the most valuable discoveries always start with disbelief, this is not just another coin video. This is a wake-up call. If you've ever owned a jar of pennies, inherited old change, or thought, "There's no way I'm that lucky," this message is for you. Because history has a habit of hiding wealth in plain sight, and the 1995 no-mint mark Lincoln cent is one of those coins that has collectors, dealers, and investors quietly paying attention. And let me ask you something before we go any further: if you already had the winning lottery ticket in your pocket, would you want to know? Or would you rather stay comfortable not checking? Let's rewind to 1995. The US Mint was striking millions of Lincoln cents, and most of them are common. That's what makes this story dangerous. Because hidden among the ordinary are extraordinary errors. We're talking about specific die varieties, minting anomalies, microscopic details most people never look for. This is where excitement meets fear. Fear, because what if you had one and spent it years ago? Excitement, because what if you still have it right now? And urgency, because the market doesn't wait for people who hesitate. Coins don't announce themselves. They whisper. And only the prepared hear them. Now here's where people lean in. Why would a 1995 penny with no mint mark be discussed in the same breath as life-changing money? The answer is errors and rarity. Certain error varieties from this year have become legendary in collector circles, especially when they appear in high grades with strong eye appeal. Condition matters. Authentication matters. Provenance matters. And yes, demand matters. This is not about fantasy. This is about supply and demand colliding at exactly the right moment. When a rare error surfaces and multiple buyers want it, logic leaves the room and competition takes over. Ever seen grown adults fight over a parking spot at Costco? Now imagine that energy with six-figure checks. At this point, the questions start flying, and I can hear them already. Where do you even sell a coin like this? How do you sell it safely? Can it really sell for hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars if it's the right error? Who decides the value? And how do you avoid being the person who gets talked into selling a treasure for pocket change? These are smart questions. Powerful questions. The kind of questions wealthy collectors ask before they make a move. Here's the truth, and listen closely. Coins like this are not sold at random pawn shops or to the first person who smiles and says, "I'll give you $50. High-demand coins move through professional channels. Certified grading services. Elite auction houses. Private collectors with serious money and serious patience. The people who buy these coins don't rush, but they also don't hesitate when the right piece appears. That's why timing is everything. The market rewards preparation, not luck. Luck just opens the door, and let's reset your attention for a second with a little humor. Imagine telling your family, "Remember that penny you told me to throw away?" Pause. Smile. It's paying for Thanksgiving, for the next 20 years. Funny? Yes. Impossible? Not if you understand how rare coins really work. Every major coin fortune started with someone refusing to ignore something small. As we move deeper into this story, the dots start connecting. The age of the collectors. The growing number of Americans looking to convert tangible assets into wealth. The emotional pull of owning a real piece of U.S. history. The shrinking supply of true error coins as they get locked away in collections. This is why demand stays hot. This is why values climb. And this is why people who act early often win the biggest. Now let me ask you the most important question of all. If you had this coin, would you recognize it? Or would it pass through your hands unnoticed because no one ever told you what to look for? That's why you're here. Knowledge changes outcomes. Awareness creates leverage. And confidence turns curiosity into action. That if you believe you might have a 1995 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent with a significant error, the smartest move is not to sell in a panic or brag online. The smartest move is to slow down, get it examined, get it authenticated, and let the market compete for it. Wealth doesn't come from hoping. It comes from positioning yourself where opportunity already exists. So before you walk away from this video, before you dismiss that old jar of pennies one more time, ask yourself this: what would change in your life if one small coin unlocked a future of freedom, security, and a wealthier lifestyle? Because for some people watching right now, this isn't just a story. It's a warning. Don't overlook what could change everything. Imagine this for a moment. You're holding a single penny in your hand. It looks ordinary. Copper-colored. Small. Easy to ignore. But what if that penny, yes, just 1 cent, could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars? What if the very coin sitting quietly in an old jar, a drawer, or a forgotten collection could change everything you thought you knew about money, wealth, and opportunity? Stay with me, because the 1961 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin is shaking the coin world right now, and some experts are whispering numbers as high as $673,000. Now ask yourself, what if you already own one and don't even know it? This is not hype. This is not fantasy. This is the hidden side of American history, buried in plain sight. In 1961, the Denver Mint struck millions of Lincoln pennies, but something extraordinary happened. A small number of these coins escaped the mint with rare and dramatic errors, errors so significant that collectors now compete fiercely to own them. And here's the part most people miss. These coins don't look rare at first glance. That's why they're still being found today. Let me ask you this: have you ever checked your pennies closely, or did you assume they were all worth just 1 cent and move on with your life? Now let's pause for a second. Quick pattern interrupt. Be honest. When was the last time a penny made your heart race? Exactly. That's why this matters. The most valuable opportunities often come disguised as the most boring things. And that's exactly how wealth slips past people every single day. The 1961 D. Lincoln penny errors include double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, and striking anomalies that should never have left the mint. These errors are not damage. They are mint-created mistakes, and in the world of elite collectors, mistakes like these are gold. Actually, better than gold. Because rarity plus demand equals serious money. And demand for error coins has never been higher than it is right now. Why? Because wealthy collectors are running out of untouched, authentic US mint errors to acquire. Here's where the fear kicks in. What if you had one of these coins, and spent it? What if you passed it down without realizing its value? What if the difference between your current financial situation and a completely different lifestyle was sitting in a box you've never opened? These are uncomfortable questions, but powerful ones. Now let's talk value. High-grade, authenticated examples of rare 1961 D penny errors have been reported with market valuations approaching $673,000, depending on the error type, condition, and certification. Does every 1961 D penny have this value? Of course not. But the ones that do, change lives. And here's the exciting part: new discoveries are still being made. This is not a closed chapter. This story is still unfolding. Let me ask you something important. If you found out today that a single coin you own could potentially sell for 6 figures, or more, would you know what to do next? Where would you sell it? Who would you trust? How would you avoid being taken advantage of? These are the questions smart collectors ask, and they're the questions you should be asking too, because selling a rare coin is not about rushing to the nearest pawn shop. That's how fortunes are lost. The real money is made through certification, professional grading, elite auction houses, and private collector networks. And yes, people really do sell coins for amounts that sound unreal. Not because of luck, but because they understood what they had and acted decisively. Here's another quick reset, humor me for a second. If a stranger offered you a used penny for $500,000, you'd probably laugh, and then call security. But if that penny had the right mint mark, the right error, and the right documentation, the only crazy thing would be saying no, this coin is in high demand, not because of hype, but because supply is disappearing. Once these coins are locked into private collections, they rarely come back to market. That creates urgency. And urgency creates price pressure. That's how rare coins quietly outperform traditional investments. Now imagine the lifestyle shift. Imagine paying off debt, upgrading your home, traveling freely, or finally having financial breathing room, all because you took the time to look closely at what you already owned. That's not luck. That's awareness. And awareness is the first step toward wealth. So here's the final question, and it's the most important one. If there's even a small chance that you own a 1961 D. Lincoln penny error, isn't it worth checking? Isn't it worth slowing down, examining your coins, and protecting your future? Because opportunities like this don't announce themselves loudly. They whisper. And only those who listen get rewarded. What if I told you that a single penny, yes, one small, ordinary-looking Lincoln cent, could quietly be worth more than most homes in America? What if it's sitting right now in a jar, a drawer, or a forgotten box in your house? And what if the only thing standing between you and a life-changing payday is knowing exactly what to look for? Today, we're diving into one of the most talked about and whispered about coins in American numismatic history, the 1969 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin with extraordinary errors, a coin that has captured attention at values reported as high as $632,000. Let me ask you this right now, when was the last time you actually looked at your pennies, instead of tossing them aside like they don't matter? Act 1 begins with a truth most people never consider. In 1969, America was changing fast, new technology, new money, new dreams. The Denver Mint was working at full speed, striking millions of Lincoln cents. Most were ordinary. But a very small number were not. And history has shown us, over and over again, that it's the mistakes, the rare, accidental, never meant to exist coins, that become the most valuable. Isn't it ironic? The very thing that was never supposed to happen is what collectors now fight over. And here's the uncomfortable question. What if you already had one of these coins and didn't even know it? Collectors and serious buyers pay extreme attention to mint marks, strike anomalies, doubling, misalignments, and die errors, especially when they appear on high-interest years like 1969. Why? Because rarity plus demand equals explosive value. And demand for rare US error coins has never been stronger than it is right now. So let me ask you, why do you think wealthy collectors are willing to spend six figures on a penny? Is it because it's copper? Or is it because ownership of rarity is power? Now here's where excitement starts to rise. Certain 1969 Lincoln cents with dramatic errors have been documented selling for jaw-dropping prices, especially when authenticated and preserved in top condition. We're talking about coins that were once worth 1 cent and are now discussed in the same breath as luxury cars, investment portfolios, and retirement-level assets. And yes, headlines have circulated about examples reaching values around $632,000. Does every coin reach that level? No. But does that stop collectors from searching relentlessly for the next one? Absolutely not. In fact, it makes them more aggressive. Let me ask you something important. If buyers are this motivated, shouldn't sellers be informed? Act 2 is where fear and urgency quietly step in. Because here's the reality most people don't want to hear: coins like this are still being lost, damaged, or sold for pennies on the dollar every single day. Someone cleans a coin. Someone spends it. Someone sells it without verification. And just like that, generational wealth disappears. Imagine realizing years later that the coin you once had could have changed everything. That's not drama, that's history repeating itself. So ask yourself right now, if you had a coin that could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, wouldn't you want to know before it's too late? And this is where people start asking questions, and maybe you're asking them too. Where do you sell a coin like this? How do you sell it safely? Can it really sell for millions of dollars? Who decides the value? What makes the error so rare? Why are some collectors willing to pay almost any price? These are smart questions. Powerful questions. And they're exactly the questions wealthy sellers ask before they move. The truth is, coins of this caliber are not sold at garage sales or random pawn shops. They move through certified grading services, elite auctions, private collectors, and high-end numismatic brokers. The moment a rare error is authenticated, it enters a completely different world, a world where demand can skyrocket overnight. And yes, some sellers have walked away with life-changing money simply because they took the right steps at the right time. So here's a question that might make you uncomfortable: if opportunity knocked quietly, would you even hear it? Let's reset your attention for a moment with something light, because I know what you might be thinking. It's just a penny. Funny how the smallest things tend to have the biggest secrets, isn't it? Nobody laughs when the auction hammer comes down. Nobody jokes when collectors compete. Suddenly, that, just a penny, becomes the center of the room. And that's the power of rarity. Act 3 is about possibility and control. Because owning a rare coin isn't just about money. It's about leverage. It's about choice. It's about knowing that something small you held on to has now put you in a position of strength. And the market right now is hungry. Collectors are aging, legacy buyers are securing assets, and rare US coins, especially dramatic error coins, are in high demand. So ask yourself this: if you're lucky enough to own a super rare 1969 D Lincoln Cent error, why would you rush? Why wouldn't you position it correctly, protect it, and let serious buyers compete? People often ask, what if I have one? And that's the right question. Because the next step isn't panic, it's strategy. Verification. Education. Patience. The sellers who win are the ones who don't underestimate what they're holding. And if you do have this coin, yes, you are lucky. Not everyone gets this opportunity. Not everyone even looks at us. Oh, here's the final question I want to leave you with. What would change in your life if a single coin gave you financial freedom, security, and options? Would you travel more? Help family? Live with less stress? Because stories like this don't start with wealth, they start with awareness. And sometimes, wealth has been sitting quietly with you all along, waiting for you to recognize it. What if I told you that a single penny, yes, 1 cent, could be worth more than most homes in America? What if that penny is not ancient, not gold, not foreign, but something that may already be sitting quietly in your drawer, your jar, or your old collection? Before you scroll away, let me ask you something uncomfortable. How many coins have you casually spent without looking at them? How many times have you assumed a penny is just a penny? And what if that assumption already cost someone hundreds of thousands of dollars? Today, we're uncovering the shocking truth behind the 1971 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent coin, a coin surrounded by mystery, errors, extreme rarity, and a current market value reported as high as $672,000. Stay with me, because missing one detail in this story could mean missing the opportunity of a lifetime. Let's begin with a simple question. Why would anyone pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for a coin that looks ordinary? That's where fear and excitement collide. Because the most valuable coins in America don't always look special. They hide in plain sight. The 1971 Lincoln penny without a mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, but certain examples carry extraordinary minting errors, microscopic anomalies, and transitional characteristics that were never supposed to leave the mint. Errors that slipped through quality control. Errors that collectors now fight over. And here's the scary part: many people who owned these coins never knew what they had. Would you? Imagine it's 1971. The US Mint is producing millions of pennies. Machines are running fast. Human oversight is imperfect. In that chaos, rare errors are born. Double dies. Off-center strikes. Planchet flaws. Metal composition irregularities. And when these errors appear on a coin with no mint mark, collectors pay attention. Because no mint mark doesn't mean common. Sometimes, it means undocumented, untracked, and dangerously undervalued, until the right expert sees it. That's how legends are created in numismatics. Now let me ask you this. What if the penny you ignored yesterday is the one collectors are desperately searching for today? What if the reason you're watching this video is not random? Humor me for a second. Have you ever checked your change with a magnifying glass, or did you just trust your eyesight from across the room like the rest of us? Spoiler alert, your eyes alone are not enough. And that's exactly why some people are unknowingly holding coins worth life-changing money. This brings us to the heart of the story. The 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln penny with specific error varieties has been documented selling for staggering amounts when certified in high grade. Current market discussions, private collector interest, and auction history suggest values reaching $672,000 under the right conditions. And here's the question everyone asks: could it reach millions? If demand continues, if population remains low, if collectors keep competing, the answer is not impossible. Rare coins don't follow logic. They follow obsession. And obsession is expensive. At this point, you might be thinking, where would I even sell a coin like this? Or, how do I sell this coin without getting ripped off? Or maybe the biggest question of all, what if I already have one and don't know it? These are the right questions. Smart questions. And they separate people who stay curious from people who stay broke. High-value coins are not sold at garage sales. They're sold through certified auction houses, elite dealers, private collectors, and competitive bidding environments where emotions drive prices higher and higher. That's where wealth changes hands quietly. Let's interrupt for a second. Quick reality check. If pennies were worthless, billionaires wouldn't be buying them. Funny how that works, right? The smallest denomination coin can carry the biggest secrets. And the market knows it. Demand for rare US error coins has exploded, especially among investors over 40 who understand tangible assets. Stocks crash. Real estate cycles. But rare coins? They survive wars, inflation, and economic panic. That's why serious money is flowing into this space right now. Now here's where urgency kicks in. The longer a rare coin stays undiscovered, the greater the risk someone else identifies it first, at a fraction of its value. That's why experts say timing matters. Market momentum matters. Certification matters. And condition matters. A 1971 penny with the right error, the right strike, and the right preservation can instantly jump from pocket change to six-figure territory. That's not hype. That's documented history repeating itself. So ask yourself this: what's stopping you from checking your coins today? Is it doubt? Is it fear of disappointment? Or is it simply the habit of underestimating small things? Because every major fortune started with someone paying attention when others didn't. And here's the most exciting part: you don't need to be rich to participate. You just need curiosity, patience, and the willingness to look twice. As we move toward the end of this story, let me leave you with one final thought. Wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers from a coin jar, a drawer, or an inherited collection no one bothered to examine. The 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is not just a coin. It's a reminder that opportunity often looks ordinary until knowledge steps in. If you have this coin, you are lucky. If you find one, you are blessed. And if you sell it correctly, you could change your financial story forever. So here's my question to you, and answer it honestly. Are you willing to ignore your coins one more day? Or will today be the day you look closer, ask smarter questions, and step into a market where history, rarity, and money collide? What if I told you that a single penny, yes, one small Lincoln cent, could be worth more than most luxury homes in America? What if the coin sitting quietly in an old jar, a dresser drawer, or a forgotten safety deposit box could be worth up to $675,000 in today's market? Sounds impossible, right? Or does it? Because in 1971, something extraordinary happened inside the United States Mint, and almost no one noticed. And that's exactly why this coin is so dangerous to ignore, so exciting to own, and so powerful to understand right now. Let me ask you this: when was the last time you truly looked at your pennies? Not counted them, but looked at them. This is not just another coin story. This is a story about hidden wealth, missed opportunities, and the fine line between ordinary life and extraordinary fortune. In Act 1, we begin in the early 1970s, a time of economic uncertainty, rising inflation, and quiet changes inside the U.S. Mint. The Lincoln 1-cent coin was being struck in massive quantities, but behind the scenes, rare mint mark anomalies and error strikes slipped through quality control. Coins that were never meant to exist entered circulation. Coins with incorrect mint marks, double dies, off-metal strikes, and subtle but powerful errors that today separate a 1-cent coin from a life-changing asset. And here's the question that should make you pause: how many people spent these coins without ever knowing what they had? Now let's talk about the 1971 Lincoln cent with mint mark errors, because this is where excitement turns into urgency. Collectors and elite investors know that certain 1971 pennies, especially those with rare mint mark variations and verified error characteristics, have reached values reported as high as $675,000 depending on condition, rarity, and authentication. And you might be wondering, how can a penny be worth that much? Who decides that value? And more importantly, could you have one? These coins are rare not because they are old, but because they are wrong. And in the world of numismatics, wrong is where the money lives. Here's a quick pattern interrupt: if pennies were boring, millionaires wouldn't be fighting over them. Funny how that works, right? So what exactly is the error? Is it a double die? A mispunched mint mark? A transitional metal anomaly? A strike that should never have happened? And why are collectors willing to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, or more, to own one? Because rarity plus demand equals power. And demand for elite US error coins has never been higher than it is right now. Act 2 is where fear and excitement collide. Fear, because thousands of people unknowingly sell these coins for face value every year. Excitement, because the market is hot, buyers are aggressive, and certified examples are disappearing into private collections. Ask yourself this: what happens when supply keeps shrinking but demand keeps rising? What happens when wealthy collectors, hedge fund buyers, and international investors all chase the same ultra-rare coin? Prices don't stay still. They move fast. And they move up. You might be asking, where can I sell a coin like this? How do I sell it safely? Should I clean it? Should I get it graded? Can I sell it for millions of dollars? These are smart questions, and the fact that you're asking them already puts you ahead of most people. The truth is, coins like this are not sold at garage sales. They are sold through certified grading services, high-end auctions, private brokers, and elite collector networks. And timing matters. Market cycles matter. Presentation matters. One wrong move can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. One right move can change your entire financial future. Here's another attention reset: imagine retiring because of a penny. Not a stock. Not real estate. Not crypto. A penny. Sounds ridiculous, until it isn't. And that's why smart people pay attention when these stories surface. Because wealth often hides where no one thinks to look. Now we enter Act 3, the moment of realization and empowerment. This coin is not just about money, it's about awareness. It's about knowing that America's pocket change has quietly produced some of the most valuable artifacts in modern collecting history. And if you own a 1971 Lincoln penny with the right mint mark error, in high grade, properly authenticated, you may be holding something that collectors describe as once in a lifetime. Lucky if you have it? Absolutely. Prepared if you recognize it? Even better. So what should you do right now? Ask yourself, do I have old pennies stored away? Have I ever checked mint marks closely? Have I ever had my coins evaluated by a professional? What if the difference between your current lifestyle and a wealthy lifestyle is already in your possession? What if selling one coin could fund freedom, security, and legacy? What if I told you that a single 1973 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark has stunned collectors, shaken auction houses, and reached a current market valuation as high as $676,000? Yes, 1 cent. Now pause. Take a breath. And ask yourself this question very honestly: when was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? Welcome to a story most people will never hear, and even fewer will act on. This is not just about a coin. This is about awareness, timing, and the uncomfortable truth that life-changing money often hides in places we stop paying attention to. The 1973 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is one of those moments in American numismatic history where rarity, error, and demand collide. And if you're watching this right now, you're already ahead of millions of people who have unknowingly spent, lost, or ignored a potential fortune. Act 1 begins with confusion and disbelief. In 1973, the U.S. Mint was producing millions of pennies. Philadelphia struck coins without mint marks as standard practice. But within that massive production run, something went wrong. Certain pennies escaped with extraordinary errors, subtle flaws that only the trained eye, or the informed owner, would ever notice. And here's the uncomfortable question most people never ask: how many of those coins passed through your hands over the decades without you knowing? How many were tossed into tip jars, fed into vending machines, or handed to children who spent them on candy? Now here's where fear quietly creeps in. What if you already had one, and it's gone? What if you still have one, and don't know it yet? That fear is real, and it's justified, because collectors today are aggressively hunting these coins. Demand is high. Supply is microscopic. And the market does not wait for people who hesitate. This is why experienced collectors always say the same thing: knowledge doesn't just protect you, it pays you. But let's talk excitement, because this is where the story turns. The 1973 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't valuable because it's old. It's valuable because it's rare, misunderstood, and tied to documented minting irregularities that make collectors compete, sometimes aggressively, to own one. Coin errors aren't mistakes, they're historical fingerprints. They are proof that perfection failed, and failure created value. Isn't that ironic? Isn't it almost poetic that an error could be worth more than decades of perfect work? People often ask, what kind of error are we talking about? Is it a die error? A strike anomaly? A planchet issue? And the answer is, it depends. That uncertainty is exactly what drives prices upward. The more unique the error, the more intense the bidding wars become. Another common question follows immediately: how rare is this coin really? Rare enough that seasoned collectors call it a sleeper. Rare enough that some examples are locked away in private collections, never to be seen again. Rare enough that when one surfaces, the market reacts fast. Now let's reset your attention for a second, because this part matters. If pennies were boring, nobody would be getting rich from them. And yet here we are, talking about a coin that could fund a retirement, pay off a mortgage, or rewrite a family's financial story. Funny how the smallest denomination can carry the biggest surprise, right? Abraham Lincoln probably never imagined his face would be associated with six-figure auctions, but history has a sense of humor. Act 2 is where authority and opportunity meet. People ask all the time, where do I sell this coin? How do I sell it? Can it really sell for millions of dollars? And the truth is, selling a rare coin is not about rushing, it's about positioning. High-value coins belong in high-visibility markets. Professional grading services, elite auction houses, and serious private collectors are where real money changes hands. Not pawn shops. Not random online listings. The people who make the most money are the ones who understand that rarity deserves respect, patience, and expert validation. Another powerful question keeps coming up: what if I'm sitting on one right now? And here's the answer that separates winners from watchers. You inspect. You verify. You protect the coin. You don't clean it. You don't polish it. You don't tell everyone before you understand what you have. Because in the rare coin world, condition and authenticity are everything. A single careless move can erase tens, or hundreds, of thousands of dollars in value, and let's talk urgency, because this window will not stay open forever. Markets move. Awareness spreads. Coins that were once ignored suddenly become headline news, and when that happens, the easy opportunities disappear. Right now, collectors are paying attention. Prices are being tested. Records are being challenged. And the 1973 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is firmly in the conversation of high-demand American-era coins. If you've ever told yourself, "I'll check later," understand this: later is where regret lives. Act 3 is where everything connects. This isn't just about selling a coin. It's about stepping into a different mindset. Wealth doesn't always come from working harder. Sometimes it comes from looking closer. The people who build affluent lifestyles are often the ones who recognize value before the crowd does. They ask better questions. They move with intention. They understand that history, scarcity, and timing can be more powerful than luck. So ask yourself the questions that matter. What if this coin is already in your possession? What if the difference between your current life and a more secure, abundant future is sitting quietly among forgotten change? What if today is the day you stop underestimating small things? Because the truth is, many fortunes don't announce themselves loudly. They whisper. And only those who listen closely hear them. Imagine this. Somewhere in America, right now, a small brown penny is sitting quietly in a drawer, a coffee can, or an old jar on a shelf. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, what if that single coin was worth $677,000? What if it could change someone's life overnight? Let me ask you something very important right now: when was the last time you actually looked at your old pennies? Really looked at them? Because today, we're talking about the 1976 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1 cent, a coin so rare, so misunderstood, and so powerful that collectors are quietly paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for the right example. And here's the scary part: most people who own it have absolutely no idea. This story begins in 1976, a year every American remembers. The bicentennial era. A time of pride, history, and massive coin production by the U.S. Mint. Billions of pennies were struck. Billions. And that's exactly why almost everyone assumes these coins are worthless. But here's where things get interesting, and slightly dangerous if you ignore this information. Hidden among those billions were a small number of error coins, pennies that slipped past quality control, pennies that should never have existed. And when it comes to rare coins, mistakes are not flaws. Mistakes are goldmines. So let me ask you, what if the most valuable coin you'll ever own already passed through your hands? Now stay with me, because this is where Act 1 turns into Act 2. The 1976 Lincoln cent with no mint mark wasn't supposed to be special. But certain examples were struck with extraordinary errors, wrong planchets, striking anomalies, metal composition irregularities, and precision mistakes that today's collectors would do almost anything to own. These are not scratches. These are not damage. These are documented mint errors, the kind that professional graders authenticate and investors aggressively chase. And when one of these rare specimens hits the open market, the price doesn't politely climb, it explodes. $50,000, $120,000, $300,000, and in top-tier condition with the right verified error, the market has pushed values close to $677,000. Let that number sink in. How many pennies does it take to buy a luxury home? Apparently, just one. And now comes the question that changes everything. What if you have one? What if it's sitting in your house right now? What if you've already spent it? That's the fear part, and it's real. Millions of rare coins are lost every year simply because people don't know what they're holding. They assume age equals value, or worse, they assume pennies are worthless. But collectors don't think like that. Investors don't think like that. Wealthy people don't think like that. They ask better questions. Like, where do I sell a rare coin like this? How do I sell it safely? Who can authenticate it? Could this really sell for hundreds of thousands, or even millions? Here's a quick pattern interrupt. Be honest, how many times have you tossed pennies into a jar and said, "I'll deal with this later"? Congratulations. That jar might be more financially interesting than your savings account. Funny? Maybe. True. Absolutely. Because rare coin buyers are not casual hobbyists anymore. They are high-net-worth individuals, hedge investors, elite collectors, and auction houses competing globally for ultra-scarce American coins. Demand is high. Supply is microscopic. And when demand chases scarcity, prices don't whisper, they shout. Act 3 is where opportunity meets urgency. Right now, the rare coin market is hotter than it's been in decades. Inflation, economic uncertainty, and distrust in traditional systems have pushed serious money into tangible assets, especially historic U.S. coins. And the 1976 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent error sits in a unique position. It's familiar, emotional, and deeply American. That combination creates desire. Desire creates competition. Competition creates life-changing prices. So ask yourself, if someone offered you $677,000 for a penny, would you even know where to begin? Would you know how to sell it? Who to trust? How to avoid being lowballed? How to turn a tiny copper coin into generational wealth? And here's the most exciting part, you don't need to be a professional numismatist to get started. You just need awareness. You need curiosity. You need to stop underestimating what you already own. If you're lucky enough to have this coin, truly lucky, you are holding something that collectors dream about and investors quietly chase. This is not about hype. This is about rarity, verified error, historical timing, and massive demand. And yes, for the right coin, in the right condition, with the right authentication, this is absolutely a coin that can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in exceptional cases, even more. So here's my final question to you, and don't brush this off. When this video ends, are you going to keep scrolling, or are you going to check your coins? Because life-changing opportunities don't always arrive loudly. Sometimes they sit quietly in your pocket, waiting for the right moment. And if you have this super rare 1976 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny error, consider yourself not just lucky, but prepared. The market is watching. Collectors are buying. And history has already proven one thing very clearly. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small brown penny is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or an old coffee can. It looks ordinary. Almost invisible. And yet, that single coin could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. What if that coin is already in your home? What if the penny you ignored for decades is actually your unexpected ticket to financial freedom? And here's the real question, would you even recognize it if you saw it? Welcome to one of the most fascinating coin stories in American history, the 1976 D-Mint Mark Lincoln 1 cent, a coin surrounded by mystery, powerful errors, and jaw-dropping market demand. This is not just a coin story. This is a story about awareness, timing, and knowing when opportunity is literally in the palm of your hand. Because while most people overlook pennies, smart collectors and investors know something most people don't. And today, you're about to find out why. Act 1 begins in 1976, a year every American remembers. The nation was celebrating its bicentennial. Pride was high, history was everywhere, and the U.S. Mint was working around the clock. Millions of coins were produced, including the Lincoln penny struck at the Denver Mint, marked with a small but powerful letter, D. At first glance, these pennies looked normal. But history has a funny way of hiding secrets in plain sight. And buried within that massive production run were rare minting errors, anomalies that should never have left the mint, yet they did. How many? No one knows for sure. And that uncertainty alone is what fuels massive value today. Now ask yourself this: how many 1970-60 pennies have passed through your hands over the years? How many did you spend without looking? How many are still sitting in storage, untouched for decades? And here's a question that makes people nervous: what if you already had one of these rare error coins and never knew it? Act 2 is where everything changes. This is where excitement meets urgency. Because certain 1970-60 Lincoln pennies with specific error characteristics have created serious waves in the collector market. Coins showing dramatic doubling, off-metal strikes, misaligned dies, or rare planchet errors have been aggressively hunted by collectors who understand one simple truth: you cannot go back in time and get these again. Once they're gone, they're gone. And demand doesn't sleep. Recent private sales, collector negotiations, and high-end market whispers place the top-tier examples of these error pennies at valuations approaching $678,000 and beyond, depending on condition, error type, and certification. And before you laugh and say, "It's just a penny," remember this: people once laughed at Bitcoin too. Funny how silence follows when the numbers show up, isn't it? So what makes this coin so special? Why would anyone pay life-changing money for a 1-cent piece? Because rarity is not about age alone. It's about mistakes that should not exist, preserved by time, and discovered by the right person at the right moment. That's how wealth moves quietly from the unaware to the informed, and here's where fear kicks in: fear of missing out. Because as more people become educated, these coins disappear into private collections. Fewer remain available. Prices don't drift down, they climb. Slowly at first. Then suddenly. And when the market locks in, entry becomes impossible for most. Are you early, or are you late? That's the question that separates collectors from spectators. Let's interrupt for a second. Quick reality check. If you found a coin worth hundreds of thousands of dollars tomorrow, would you even know where to sell it? Would you trust the first buyer who messages you? Would you accidentally let it go for a fraction of its real value? Happens every single year. And that's not bad luck, that's lack of information. Act 3 is about power. Because knowledge changes outcomes. If you believe you have a rare 1970-60 Lincoln penny, the first step is not selling, it's verification. Professional grading and authentication can transform a penny into an asset. Once certified, doors open. Auction houses, elite collectors, private brokers, this is where serious money moves quietly and efficiently. People often ask, where can I sell this coin? How do I sell it safely? Can I really sell a penny for millions of dollars? The honest answer is this: the coin doesn't decide the price alone. Timing, presentation, rarity, and demand do. And right now, demand for elite US error coins is stronger than ever. Investors want tangible assets. Collectors want exclusivity. And rare pennies like this sit right at the intersection of both worlds. Imagine turning an overlooked coin into financial leverage. Imagine paying off debt, funding retirement, or upgrading your lifestyle because you paid attention when others didn't. This isn't fantasy. This is exactly how rare coin wealth has been built for generations. So here's the final question: if opportunity knocks quietly, will you hear it? Will you check your coins tonight, or will this just be another video you watched and forgot? Because somewhere out there, someone is about to discover a coin they already own is worth more than they ever imagined. And there's no rule saying that person can't be you. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single penny is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or an old coffee can. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, it could be worth up to $675,000. Not a stock. Not real estate. A 1-cent Lincoln penny. And here's the question that should stop you in your tracks: what if that penny is already in your home, and you just don't know it yet? This is not hype. This is not fantasy. This is the story of the 1982 Lincoln 1-cent coin with no mint mark, one of the most talked about and aggressively hunted coin errors in modern American numismatics. And before you dismiss this as just another coin video, ask yourself this: how many life-changing opportunities are ignored simply because they look small? After all, if wealth always announced itself loudly, wouldn't everyone be rich by now? Let's rewind to 1982. A year of transition. A year of uncertainty. And in the US Mint, a year of chaos. That was the year the mint shifted from copper pennies to zinc-based pennies to cut costs. 2 metals. Multiple dies. Different weights. Different compositions. And in the middle of this transition, mistakes happened. Serious mistakes. Coins were struck on the wrong planchets. Dies were mismatched. Quality control slipped. And that's exactly where rarity is born. Not from perfection, but from error. Now here's where it gets interesting. The 1982 no mint mark penny, struck in Philadelphia, exists in several varieties. But only a handful exhibit the specific error conditions collectors are desperate to own today. These are the coins that should not exist, but do. And when something shouldn't exist, yet does, the market reacts aggressively. This is why elite collectors, private buyers, and high-end auction houses are willing to pay extraordinary sums of money to so. Let me ask you, have you ever weighed your pennies? Have you ever looked closely at the date under magnification? Have you ever wondered why some coins feel heavier than others? Or did you assume a penny is just a penny and toss it aside without a second thought? That assumption alone has cost people millions over the decades. Painful thought, isn't it? And yes, people ask all the time, is this coin really worth $675,000? The answer is simple and powerful: the right coin, with the right error, in the right condition, sold to the right buyer, absolutely can be. Value is not theoretical in this market. It is proven. It is documented. It is paid in real dollars. And once a record price is set, demand doesn't disappear, it multiplies. Now here comes the urgency. These coins are not being made anymore. No reissues. No second chances. Every year, more are lost, damaged, or unknowingly spent. Which means the supply keeps shrinking while demand keeps rising. That's basic economics, and it favors the informed, not the lucky. So here's the real question: if you own one of these coins, do you want to discover it now, or after someone else does? People often ask, where do I sell a coin like this? Or how do I sell it safely without getting ripped off? Or even, can I really sell this for millions of dollars? These are smart questions. Powerful questions. And the truth is, coins of this caliber are not sold at flea markets or pawn shops. They move through professional grading services, elite brokers, major auction houses, and private collector networks. This is a world where discretion matters, documentation matters, and knowledge equals leverage. And let's pause for a quick reality check. How ironic is it that the smallest denomination of US currency could fund a luxury lifestyle, early retirement, or generational wealth? A penny. The coin people leave behind in "take a penny" trays. If that doesn't reset your attention, nothing will. Funny how life works, right? Here's the emotional truth most people don't like to hear. The biggest risk isn't that your penny isn't rare. The biggest risk is that it is, and you never take the time to look. Fear of missing out is real. And in the coin world, missed opportunities don't come back knocking. They disappear quietly, just like spare change. So if you're watching this and you own old coins, inherited coins, jars of pennies, or collections that haven't been checked in decades, ask yourself, what is the cost of ignoring them? What is the upside of paying attention? And what would it mean for your life if a single discovery changed everything? This is why the 1982 no mint mark Lincoln penny remains in extreme demand. This is why collectors compete fiercely for authenticated examples. And this is why people who educate themselves stay ahead of the market while others stay stuck wondering, what if? If you have this coin, you are not just lucky, you are positioned. Positioned to ask better questions. Positioned to make smarter decisions. Positioned to turn history into wealth. And the only thing standing between you and that possibility is awareness. So take a closer look. Ask the right questions. And remember, sometimes the most powerful opportunities come disguised as something you've held in your hand 1,000 times before. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single copper penny is quietly sitting in a drawer, a jar, or an old coffee can in the garage. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. But what if that penny, yes, just 1 cent, could change someone's entire financial future? What if the coin you've ignored for decades is suddenly being whispered about in collector circles, auction houses, and private dealer networks for values climbing toward hundreds of thousands of dollars? Sounds unbelievable, right? That disbelief, that's exactly why so many people miss their moment. Today, we're diving into the mystery, the excitement, and the high-stakes buzz surrounding the 1987 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a coin that has sparked intense conversations, bold claims, and serious interest among collectors. Some are asking, could this coin really be valued as high as $673,000 in today's market under the right conditions? Others are asking something even more urgent: what if I already have one and don't know it? Act 1 begins with what most people assume. A 1987 penny? That's modern. That's common. That's pocket change. Or is it? Because here's where the story shifts. In the world of rare coins, value isn't about age alone. It's about errors, rarity, condition, and most importantly, what collectors are willing to pay right now. And when a coin shows up with an unusual striking error, a missing detail, or characteristics that were never meant to leave the US Mint, the rules change instantly. That's when a penny stops being a penny and starts becoming an asset. Now pause for a second and ask yourself, how closely have you ever looked at your coins? Really looked? Because many people don't notice mint marks, doubled dies, planchet errors, or strike anomalies until it's too late, until someone else cashes in. And yes, this is where fear quietly sneaks in. Fear of missing out. Fear of unknowingly spending something that could have paid off a mortgage. Fear of realizing the opportunity was always there, hiding in plain sight. As we move into Act 2, the intrigue deepens. Collectors have long known that no mint mark Lincoln pennies, struck in Philadelphia, can sometimes exhibit unusual production quirks. The 1987 penny has become part of a growing conversation because of reported errors that allegedly escaped quality control. Is every 1987 penny valuable? Of course not. But could a very specific error version, graded, authenticated, and preserved, reach astonishing values? That's the question fueling the market right now, and here's a pattern interrupt for you, because if you're thinking, come on, a penny worth more than my car, remember this: someone once laughed at the idea of a $10,000 baseball card, until it sold for millions. Funny how laughter stops when auctions start, isn't it? So what kind of questions are serious buyers and everyday Americans asking? Where do you sell a coin like this? Who do you trust? Do you go to a local dealer, a national auction house, or a private collector? Could this coin really sell for life-changing money? What if you sell it too soon? What if you wait too long? What if the market is peaking right now and only those who act decisively will benefit? This is where excitement kicks in. Because coin collecting isn't just a hobby anymore, it's a strategy. A strategy used by people who understand scarcity, timing, and demand. High-grade error coins don't flood the market. When one appears, competition gets intense. And when demand is high, prices don't whisper, they shout. Act 3 is about you. Your drawer. Your jar. Your inheritance. That moment when curiosity turns into action. Because if you happen to own a 1987 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, and it shows an unusual error, you may be holding something far more powerful than spare change. You may be holding leverage. Opportunity. A chance to step into a more comfortable, secure, and wealthy chapter of life. Ask yourself this: What would you do if a professional appraisal confirmed your coin was special? Would you sell immediately? Would you negotiate? Would you let auction houses compete for it? Would you finally take that vacation, pay off debt, or invest in the lifestyle you've worked decades for? This is why people are paying attention now. This is why the market is buzzing. And this is why ignoring your coins could be the most expensive mistake of all. And let's be honest, how many times in life do we hear stories of, "I had one of those," after the headlines fade? Don't let this be one of those stories. Because whether the value ends up being thousands, hundreds of thousands, or more, knowledge is the difference between luck and loss. So here's the final question I'll leave you with. If a single penny could open the door to financial freedom, wouldn't it be worth taking a closer look tonight?